Good morning, folks. This weekend is the last Sunday of the church's year, and it's the feast of Christ the King. It's a sort of a beautiful feast to celebrate the end of the church's year. And the feast of Christ the King it's been in existence for the feast itself since 1925. Pope Pius the 11th inaugurated that feast, and it was sort of a response to the political and social situation at the time. As you know, Europe had just come through World War One, and things were really, in the world, things were a lot of upheaval and so on, and so the Pope sort of instituted this feast. So that people would be more aware of in their individual lives of the kingship of Christ, number one, and also I think his expectation or his hope was also that it would have some repercussions regarding the larger society. Anyway, when we talk about Christ as King, the whole notion of King, for me, I grew up with. I'd have to be honest and say I didn't like it too much mainly because of Irish history and Ireland that was under the domination of Britain for hundreds of years, and the kings who were obviously the leaders at the time. Ultimately they took care of themselves and perhaps took care of some of their own people. They certainly didn't take care of the Irish people, and the Irish people were sort of almost treated as slaves. They weren't much better for perhaps hundreds of years. And I think what was true in Ireland was in many ways it was perhaps somewhat true also in Israel. Several centuries earlier, when Israel finally got a king. Second king of Israel was David, and he was sort of the perfect king. He was just a very generous, not a perfect individual. He had his moral failures, but in terms of his dealings with his people, he was selfless in so many ways, and also he united the people as one. Okay, so he was sort of a figure that was highly admired, but then was sort of downhill from there for several hundred years. One king after another, taking care of themselves, not necessarily taking care of the people. And when it came to the last kings of Israel were around the 3rd century or so, and but Israel still had that sort of yearning, if you will, for a king. And when they thought about a king, when they talked about a king, usually David was sort of the model. He was the model king that they would love to have again. And that, in a sense, takes us to an understanding of when Jesus came on earth. Jesus was sort of like the fulfillment of their desires. He was the model king, if you will, the Messiah king, for which they hoped. And when you look at his life, as an adult, like he was the perfect king in a sense, to the extent that he really took care of people. Life wasn't about him; it was about what he could do for other people, especially for the poor and the sick and the needy. And then, of course, it wasn't just what Jesus did for the people while he was on earth that, in a sense, technically didn't give him the title of king, but he could have been a king. It really was even more important was not just his life, but how he died and what happened after his death. That is, in his passionate death, we know that he surrendered himself completely. He surrendered. He could have all the power he wanted because of who he was, but instead, in a sense, he completely surrendered himself to to those who mocked him and made fun of him. It's interesting. The Sunday's Gospel talks about the people when he was on the cross. People were jeering at him and making fun of him and say, "Save yourself." And even one of the thieves beside him said, "If you are who you say you are, then come down off that cross. Save yourself and save us." So in essence, he was so badly treated, but as it says in one of the Psalms, like a lamb, he didn't open his mouth. So, but St. Paul says that Jesus was, even though on the cross he was obedient to the will of his Father, right up until the moment of his death, and it was because of that obedience that he was raised up to a newness of life. So the cross is, in a sense, central. Christ on the cross, that in a sense became his throne, if you will, and it was in and through that sacrificial death that he achieved our ultimate freedom, which is the ability to live on forever. So he was certainly he fulfilled the whole expectation of the type of David that the people wanted. Now the question then, I suppose, is well, how do you belong to that? How do you belong to that kingdom? If he established a kingdom by his life and death, how do you belong to that kingdom? As he said to Pilate, he says, "My kingdom doesn't belong to this world." So his kingdom wasn't just a kingdom of a geographical kingdom. Rather, it was a kingdom of peace, of justice, of love, of forgiveness, all those wonderful virtues. And to the extent that we try to emulate him and live those virtues in our lives, we are certainly it's a statement of the fact that we truly belong to his kingdom. So I think it's a great message for this last Sunday of the church's year, and also for us it should be a good preparation for Christmas, because the more that we sort of die to ourselves in our lives and surrender to him, the more we're, in a sense, preparing ourselves to welcome him into our world at Christmas time. Thank you.